Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. Ladies and gentlemen, this platform is created for you to break those chains that have been holding you back in your life. So if there's something in your life that you feel like you need to get through, right? You feel like you've been stuck in for a long time. I created this podcast to give you real stories of inspiration. So bring people on the show who have done amazing things in their lives, gotten through incredible things in their lives, and have created a life that is unstuck, and they're also helping other people get unstuck. So if you feel stuck at any part in your life, use these episodes and this platform as the courage, the strength, the perseverance, the faith you need to break those chains that have been holding you back. I got to thank the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Thank you to AMA, the Author Millionaire Academy. Thank you to the Connected Leaders Academy and to Unleash You Now. If you want to find out more about those three incredible organizations, check out the show notes, find out all about them, what they're all about, click those links and dive in for yourself. Today, we have an amazing guest on. So Scott Makin is on the show today. Scott boasts over 40 years of experience as an executive leadership coach, business consultant, and licensed mental health counselor. Scott also co-founded the Townsend Institute for Leadership and Counseling at Huntington University, serving as its executive director from 2014 until 2021. Scott also now is the founder of the Makin Institute for Neurochange, where you learn and experience the deepest ways to change habits. Alongside his professional achievements, Scott is a dedicated family man with 2 sons, a daughter, and 7 beautiful grandchildren. Scott, thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Well, thank you. I love the theme because, as you and I have talked about, really for most of my life, it's trying to figure out how our brains work so that we can get unstuck. So I think that's a great thing. Great opportunity for people that you're providing.
Cool. Thank you so much. And speaking, you really have an amazing opportunity, which is why I wanted to bring you on here, right? Because you put so many years of work into what you're doing. And I can't wait to dive into this topic because you're a master of helping people get unstuck. You spent so many years doing it. So I love to frame these episodes with a question, right? We ask better questions in our lives. We get better answers, and we can get that breakthrough we're looking for to find higher levels of potential and getting ourselves unstuck. The question I want to ask you today to frame our unstuck story is, how did you create permanent positive change in your life? And how can other people do that for themselves?
So for me, I grew up in a family, I had a good mom and dad, but I had a dad that performance, being the best, was always very important. And so as long as I did that, then I was okay. Of course, when you don't, then there's that feeling of not good enough and shame and inadequacy. And so that's been a deep feeling that I had growing up into college, early professional life. And of course, I just compensated for that by performing, accomplishing all these different things. And but it always was there. And so what helped it begin to get unstuck is what I later discovered in kind of the more cutting edge neuroscience research was there's a thing called in neuroscience memory reconsolidation. And it's a fascinating way that our brains have been designed. When you experience those original memories and they're present, I was so full of shame. When I played Little League Baseball, my dad wanted to see me. I said, I can't, you have to hide, because I would feel his eyes and I'm not good enough. I couldn't handle that. It was just too much. So as I remember that, if you are in it's present and you are in a relationship, say a friend, a counselor, and for me, it was both friend and then there was other situations with counseling where you experience a different relational experience. So I remember sharing some failures and mistakes. And these people were, boy, that just must have been difficult. Um, you could feel how you felt humiliated, um, as you were trying to do different things, and it's like, well, aren't you going to tell me to do better or how to do better? And you probably will pull away and not. They are warm, engaging, to even closer. This principle is these new relational experiences, and in the literature it's called corrective emotional experiences. I call them corrective relational experiences because they have to be. Our brains are designed to change happens the deepest in relationship. It begins to actually, this is a cool thing, replace the original memories. You'll remember the autobiographical informational pieces, but it begins to replace those emotions of I mess up and I am worthless and no good with, oh, there's still good parts of me. People can draw close to me. So in the beginning, it was hard to really feel these people really felt that way about me. But as I had more and more experiences, that was the thing that helped me to get unstuck in that chain. And those were powerful, powerful experiences.
You said change happens when you have really deep relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just thinking about this in so many different ways, right? You're trying to see change happen and trying to, as you said, memory reconsolidation, which
Yes.
sounds like a business term almost, but you throw memory in on it, right? You hear reconsolidation or something like that when it comes to finances or business.
Yes.
So reframing all of those memories, so building better relationships, and tell me if I'm hearing this correctly. Building better relationships with better people who hear you and see you when you tell them or you're experiencing with them things that may have been triggering for you in the past. When you're around the right people in deep relationships, it can help to heal those old memories. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. And even in current memories. As I've been in different situations and mess up, and the person is really angry and upset, don't have anything to do with me. That's not a pleasant memory. It links to the past, but even the present memory, as I talk about that with someone else, and feel their warmth and in that I literally messed up, it heals those things too. So yes, you got it right.
It's really interesting because, when you're around somebody, there's certain people you can be around in your life where you feel vulnerable enough in a good, right? You feel vulnerable in a good way. You feel open enough to share things with them you may never have shared with somebody else. And it's really cool when you get around someone that you feel like you can do that, like right off the bat with. That person carries a certain kind of openness to them that allows that to happen. So what was that for you in your life? So I want to talk about the Makin Institute and the amazing things you guys are doing, but so you went through all this shame at a young age, feeling like you had to, perform to be worthy and seen and accepted. What was it for you that changed over the years, specifically to help you break free from that stuck point for yourself that inspired you to go where you're at right now?
I think it happened on a couple of different levels. One thing you said I think is very intriguing. It reminds me of one other piece is you have to find the safe relationship. So you do not be vulnerable with someone that is going to kind of be judged. Yeah, you really messed up, or hey, you could do better at this, which sounds like helpful, but it really is. It actually isn't. It keeps that going on. So as I'm in different relationships, I'll share a few things vulnerably and see how they handle those things. See if I feel safe with them. And if not, then forget it. I just keep moving on to safer relationships. Whereas other people, well, give them an extra chance. So, yeah, I give them maybe a couple chances, but I just will eventually find them. And it takes a while to find safe people, really does. So that is key. Make sure it's safe that you do that. So as I kept finding safe people, um, it helped. The other thing, this is where the icing on the cake is. There still was that tendency to work hard, so I wouldn't make mistakes and fail. But there's still less shame. So when Dr. Townsend and I, the boundaries guy, Dr. Townsend, when we created the Townsend Institute, there are so many moving parts. And so as I was doing just different things and working with so many different people, I made all kinds of either mistakes or they just didn't like my style. So I had a lot of opportunity whereas before I was a head of a counseling center that I created, founded, related to a church. And in that atmosphere, everything went right. And I was this wonderful guy that came in and stuff like that. So I didn't have to face any of that stuff. On this stuff, it's like, holy cow. But it allowed me in those moments, I would then reconnect, and I had good, safe people, and I had these, what we will call evocative memories. We can talk about that, so that I could still feel okay and keep moving, so that we ended up having a very successful graduate program that actually moved from Huntington to Concordia University in Irvine, closer to where John lives. And there's close to 1,000 students that are in these programs now, so that I didn't get stuck and just say, oh, it's just too much shame and all that. So the other piece is being put in those places where I would kind of mess up, fail, people don't like me. And that was icing on the cake of that shame was able to really get out. Now I still have some of that shame that keeps getting cut in half, cut in half, cut in half. And so there's still some pieces that still need cut in half. So
yeah, there probably always is, right?
Yes, to a certain degree, absolutely, but way different than before.
Yeah, but it's interesting as you continue to cut it in half, like that's where your growth comes from, like that exponential potential that we have inside of us. Like it seems like the curse that we were I bring this up on almost every episode that I record of the Unstuck movement. The curse in your life is actually a gift, depending on how you look at it, right? So the more that you work on that curse, the more of a blessing it is, because then the mess becomes your message and becomes the thing that you help people with. It's almost like, well, I mean, it's true. It's in the Bible that God works everything for good, right? So this thing that was given to you as a bad thing in your life, as you turn it around, you work it for good. Why do you laugh?
Okay, because I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, because a lot of well-meaning Christians say everything works together for good. If you look into the Greek of that, because we use that as a defense. I hate the pain that I'm in. God's going to somehow miraculously work that way. He has chosen to interact differently. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all of this. I mean, I have some really good friends that were killed, shouldn't have been killed, so on and so forth. And but we use that as a defense because we don't want to feel the pain. And God has given the way through that pain is you are in relationships that help carry the pain, and that's how we get through. And sometimes things are just tragic and bad. They should not have happened, and it has been really difficult for me. So that's the way I understand that. Often people will flower that up to avoid the deeper issues. And that he has designed us to get through that in relationship. That's why they gave the church and the body. You could have just not have that. It isn't God's going to magically somehow make that all better, because we know he doesn't do that, or this world will be very different.
Mm.
It is out of that with him and his body that can get redeemed or reconsolidated into different experiences.
Yeah,
So
very
that's
true.
my
Because
spot.
the pain doesn't go away, or the memory doesn't go away. It's still there. But so I think for me, one simple example for me is through a divorce that I went through. Right, it brought
Mm-hmm.
me and my two families, my mom's side of my family, my dad's side of my family, so much closer together. Right, so something that came out of it, something that came out of a perceived tragedy, so many good things also came out of it. Right, so
Yes.
being able to
Yes.
see that, like, there's healing in all of that, and usually in ways that you don't expect to find, you don't expect to see.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
You mentioned was the work hard thing, right? So you were given that the concept of, like, you have to work hard and your value is found
Yeah.
in your work. And that one of the gifts there is it got you to where you are right now. So finding a balance, like riding the wave of something that was given to you that can be a really good, healthy thing to help you grow. I mean, look what you've grown. Look what you've built through the Townsend Institute, now with the Makin
Mm-hmm.
Institute. You've created amazing things, I'm sure, that have helped thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. I'm not sure. You would know better than I would, right? But you've helped so
Mm-hmm.
many people because of the work ethic that was put into you, and you had to work off the shame part, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still working through that part, right? Cutting it in half.
Yeah.
But through that, you've helped so many people improve their lives. What a beautiful gift that is.
Yes. Yes. So those are, and now those things continue to happen. My motivation is actually higher because it's not coming out of shame. It's coming out of joy and passion, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm actually able to accomplish more, believe it or not, because failures, mistakes, and that don't set me back. I'm willing to take more risks because I can handle if it's a failure, so on and so forth. So, um, so you're right. Um, Good things come out of that. As you keep growing, better things come out.
So with the Makin Institute, right? And the question I'd ask, I want to ask this question to anybody watching this or listening to this right now. How are you going to create permanent positive change in your life? If you're stuck right now, how do you start to build that permanent positive change on a functional level for the Makin Institute, and talking about positive relationships and getting the right people around
Mm-hmm.
you so
Yeah.
you can heal? What does that look like from the Makin Institute? Talk about how you actually really help people in a tangible way.
So, what the person watching this can do is, as you're experiencing whatever that shame, whatever that negative emotion is, um, you want to, often what we do is we kind of process it ourselves, or we'll process it with God. Um, and those are okay, but they're not enough because it's still within yourself. I then seek out a relationship that can give me what we call corrective relational experience. That, and as I experience that, it will cut in half that pain. Very difficult, and often as I've done that, it's like, well, I don't know if that's helped. I can still feel some of that. Yeah, you still feel some of that, but that's the beginning of that process. is our brains are created, the way our brains change the best is relational experiences. It isn't by this insight. Change will happen, but not as deep or as fast. It isn't by changing a behavior. Those actually will change faster when I go and have these different relational experiences. The core of us are primarily emotional and feelings that we have about ourselves and others in the world. And as they change, then thoughts and behaviors change a lot easier, so on and so forth. So, so you finding safe people, and then if you're lucky, we do groups, and we have facilitators that create not just safety, but then relational experiences, and the growth that happen in these groups are just amazing. The depth of the growth and the changes, that's how your listeners can do it. Now, you're gonna hate me in one sense, but you're gonna love me in another. Okay. You will not grow deeply or change by listening to a podcast. Unless this podcast tells you, go find a relationship. And in the relationship is where you'll find it. The podcast can help me. It won't help me near as much as a relationship. So the more you can direct your people to get unstuck that way, the better. And then as they come back to the podcast, some of the things that they hear and want, well, it'll blow it out, and all these different ideas and behaviors will go through the roof because they now have that kind of the scaffolding, the missing pieces that they needed. They've gotten through the relational experiences.
I love that, man. I love it so much. It's just so true. It's such a powerful thing. And I really, like you just said, a podcast, it can be like the spark you might need or the encouragement you might need to go find those relationships, right? If you can find a mentor, a therapist, a great therapist,
yes.
Coaches in your life, whatever that looks like for you. Because a lot of people out there, and I don't mean this statement to be derogatory towards anybody that's ever been in my life, but growing up, I had good people in my life who had good intentions, but were not like growth mindset kind of people.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can, it's yeah, right. It's the growth mindset of like being very intentional on helping each other grow and seeing yourself grow and seeing others grow. When you start to get people like that in your life, which is what you're saying, everything starts to change. Because they start to encourage you, they start to challenge you. They challenge you in a loving way. They challenge you in a growth kind of way of like, hey, we're going to push each other to grow and be better and to be, to find breakthrough and to find higher potential for ourselves. But we're going to like be loving each other through that. So what I love about the Makin Institute, what you're saying is you're bringing people into a place where you're facilitating those relationships. And through the facilitation of those relationships, plus your background and all that you've done with all of your coaching throughout the years, you're helping people heal through telling those stories and righting the wrongs, I guess you could say, of the way we've thought for a long time. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes, and we have to kind of do what we tell other people. So as they connect with us, we have groups that they can be a part of that will help them grow and get unstuck. We have coaches and counselors that we connect them to that have that understanding. Most of the coaches and counselors out there they are operating off the wrong brain paradigm. The old paradigm is you just have the right piece of information, the right thought, and you just change it and do it. It doesn't really work that way. And so you got to get connected to the right coaches and in the right counselors that will allow to do that. So we provide that. We also do monthly workshops that are experiential. So they're not just an information dump, but they experience different things along those lines so that some of that growth can happen. And then we also we have a certification process for those that want to. So how do I do this with my with people who I'm counseling or coaching or with my friends? And so we have kind of if someone really wants to learn that, we have a certification thing where they can learn along those lines, because in one sense, the power of your relationship with a friend, often you'll move to advice or problem solving that does not do anything. Well, does a little bit. When you attune and listen, and they feel seen and understood, and then more importantly, wherever that they're having a challenge in, and you can be okay with them in that challenge, is huge. That is the answer. That will solve things, whereas we think the advice does, and it does not. Attune, do not give advice. I don't know if you've seen the video short of "It's Not About the Nail."
Yes.
So you look that up on YouTube. It's hysterical. That's what we keep focusing on. The problem is never the problem. We try to give solutions underneath. That's the power, and it's cool. It's simple but profound. My relationship, connecting, seeing, being okay with some of that bad shit. That's what heals.
Yeah, I love to always remember, because it's very important to remember that the things of God are simple, right? They're not complicated. Mm-hmm. And I think in life, what happens is we get piles of problems on problems, and it looks like an insurmountable of impossible problems to solve. But the answer really is the more simple thing of going beneath the surface of, I mean, how simple is it to build profound and strong relationships? I'm not saying it's easy, because you have to find the right people, and you have to be the right person to also facilitate that, right? So you have to be prepared and ready yourself, because it's so true in life. And I'm sure you've experienced this. You meet people where you're at. So as I've grown, I give the past, 6.5 years for me has been, the past 10 years, a lot of growth has happened, but the past 6.5 years, a lot of growth has happened. In the past 3 years, even more growth has happened. Mm-hmm. And so I see as these cycles, so as I grow, I get better people in my life. As I get better people in my life, I grow more. I grow more, I get better people in my life. And then they start to run neck and neck with each other. Where would you recommend people start, right? So you're saying to find those relationships, to get those relationships in their life. So one of your groups sound like perfect for where somebody should start. Where would you recommend somebody starts to begin that process?
You mean the process just personally in their life, or process with us?
I think the process for them in their life. Yes. The process personally for them. Where do they start?
Find one safe friend, and then share one vulnerable piece that doesn't feel good. And if the person is safe, they'll listen, come alongside. They won't try to fix. You'll feel they're with you, and that will be very profound. It reminds me of Jesus did this all the time. Woman at the well, tremendous amount of shame. It didn't necessarily have to be because you have 5 husbands that meant she's sleeping around. It could just be a lot of them died, and in that culture, they would look down unfairly on the woman. Tons of shame, okay, and so she doesn't talk to anyone in the village because they just turn away, criticize, judge. She comes to the well in the middle of the day because she don't want to talk to anyone. Jesus is there, and so he immediately goes below and is mutual. Can you give me, asking very dependent, can you give me water? Freaks her out. You're a Jew. You're asking me. You're leveling yourself. He creates this first corrective relational experience that I am not you are equal with me. Doesn't use words, creates an experience. That's the key to change. Our brains are experience dependent. Then they talk about, give me this living water. Hey, I want it, all on the problem. Okay. And I grew up as a Baptist. At this point, we would sing 5 bars just as I am. We'd have it, we're great. What's Jesus do? He pushes it beyond the problem. I'll call your husband. He has to get the shame in the room. Okay. Memory reconsolidation. The shame is in the room. Mm. I'm thinking as a good Baptist, he's going to rake her over the coals and that'll fix it. This is what you should do. This is what you not do. You can, or you're this child of God. So no, he doesn't. The shame is in the room for the next hour and a half because the disciples are off getting some food. He draws closer to her with the shame. We know that because she starts out and says, you're a Jew, then a prophet, then sir, then she uses a personal pronoun. So the intimacy builds. Mm. And then we also know because of when she goes back to the village, she could have said, this guy is like brilliant, because Jesus was. This guy is like the most motivating speaker I've ever heard, because he was. No, what she says is, he knew everything about me, and he just spent 2 hours with me out there. So she experiences that. And so that's how that shame got resolved. It was an experience he gave her. And the intimacy he had, he then at the end reveals he's the Messiah, that he hasn't revealed that even to the disciples. He keeps that quiet because that's just not appropriate for different reasons. And so there is this level of intimacy. And then, well, did it really heal the shame? Hell yes. She doesn't talk to anyone beforehand. What's she do? She talks to everyone in that village, mm-hmm. because the shame has been at least cut in half. Mm-hmm. While he, being Jesus, probably at least 3/4. So he went a lot further than what we could. So that's the thing of power of a relational experience. When you put yourself in those places, one friend, 2 or 3, a group, then a community, whether it's a church or organization, that is the way our brains were designed. That's the way they get transformed fast, deep, and it lasts.
Amazing. That was awesome. That was so good. Great example of how that works also. Scott, this is so cool. I love what you do. I think it's really, really amazing to see that you've created this platform to help people heal and for businesses too, right? So for business, for life. Yes. It's really, really cool. If people wanted to get a hold of you to find out more, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Just Scott at Makin, Makin Institute.com.
Making it happen.
That's right. That's what we'll do. And then I'll just connect into different ways. They then can choose different ways to get involved. That would be kind of the step. So
cool. Awesome. This has been wonderful. Really love your stuff. Really love your story too. And I just want to thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Great movement, man. I love it.